Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today in the live audio room. Um, yes. Oh, and we got Matthew here. Perfect,
Hello.
perfect. Hello. So, everybody, welcome. And today I am actually super, super excited about this topic. I'm really excited about my guest today because we're going to be diving into the challenging world of dating and relationships. My guest, Matthew Hussey, today is an author, dating expert, public speaker, entertainer, and you may have seen him in Cosmopolitan Magazine, Elle Magazine, on CNN, and the Today Show, just to name a few examples of where you might know him from. But so anyways, thank you so much, Matthew, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lindsay. I was so excited when you reached out and said you were doing this and gave me the honor of being the person you were going to do it with. I mean, for all I know, you've done 10 of these with other people, but you know, I want to believe I'm the only one.
You are. You're the only one I'm doing an audio room with, so this is a one experience, one of a kind. But
Right.
actually, I have only done a few, and you were one of the few people that I selected. So
All right. Well,
made the
as long as I made the shortlist, yeah.
Absolutely. So I have to tell you a funny story. As I was, kind of preparing to talk to you today, I thought, oh, I've read your book before, so I thought, oh, I'll kind of read up on his book again. And I was actually in an Uber yesterday, and I didn't remember to bring my headphones. And so as I'm driving in this Uber, I tried to play the book very quietly in the back seat. And I was pretty much in like sweatpants and pajamas. And anyways, this Uber driver, this man was listening to me read a book about how to get the guy. And I'm pretty sure he was just kind of chuckling to himself as I quietly tried to listen to it. But, he can hear it.
This is why I need to. I've heard stories of people who read my book, which has me. I'm looking at it on the shelf right now. It's got me in a bow tie and what do you call those? The like suspenders? Yeah. I need to get a cover that people don't have to cover up next time. Because I literally hear stories from people who are like, yeah, I read it on the train, but I take the cover off so that no one knows what I'm reading. I need to write a book on business or something where people aren't afraid to listen to it in public.
Yeah, it's funny because there's like no shame in reading a book about how to get the guy, but at the same time, then you find yourself in a public setting reading a book that's like encouraging you to like, have the confidence to go get a guy, and you're like, oh gosh.
The next book the book I'm working on right now is gonna be a lot easier for you to play out loud in a cab, so don't worry.
Oh, okay, you're working on a new book. That's exciting.
More, but it will be easier for you to play out loud.
Okay, I'll like confidently like put it on speaker and blast it. Be like, you're welcome, Uber driver. You get to hear this too.
Yeah, you can aggressively change his life.
I like that, aggressively. Well, okay, so speaking of aggressively, I mean, this isn't aggressive, but confidence. I feel like that is the most attractive thing about a person. I think you say that in your book. It's something that we hear over and over and over, that the most attractive thing you can ever wear is confidence. And so I want to hear from you, what does confidence look like? Because I think a lot of us kind of see a specific person or a specific type when we think of confidence. But from you, what is it?
Yeah, I suppose there is a kind of caricatured version of confidence, which is just someone who is very bold, quite outspoken, occasionally, I suppose, just gregarious. We think of somebody.
Yes.
I think that isn't a true definition of confidence. The dictionary definition of confidence is a feeling of certainty about something, and of course that doesn't necessarily imply good or bad. We can feel secure right now having this conversation because I'm certain that the ceiling isn't about to fall on my head. That's just a feeling of certainty that gives me a level of comfort and ease. I can be, I can have a feeling of comfort right now because I'm certain that I can have this conversation with you because I've done a lot of public speaking in my life over the last 14 years and therefore feel a sense of comfort and certainty about my ability to do this. So there is a kind of confidence that comes from certainty, and in a lot of areas of our life that can come from certainty, can come from competence, from having done something a lot and being good at it. So you could be, you are of course extraordinarily competent on stage, Lindsay, and therefore there'll be a level of of confidence that you have when you take the stage, which importantly doesn't mean that you have no nerves before you step on stage. It just, which you may or may not, you can tell me, but it doesn't mean that you have no nerves. It just means that when it really comes down to it, you do have a feeling of security on stage, because you know, I've been here before, I've done this before, I know how to do this.
Yes, I love that. And you know, when you just say it, it's a sense of wait, what was the definition you said? I lost it already.
A feeling of certainty.
A feeling of certainty. It really does take it into a whole different perspective, and it kind of makes you realize that you don't have to be any sort of personality type in order to be this confidence that we all kind of immediately go to think of a certain kind of person. But it's like, no, you can be silent and show confidence. Like, confidence
Yes.
doesn't need words. It doesn't mean to be a certain personality type. And like you said, I love that you said you can be nervous and be confident, because I still do get nerves every time before I go on stage, and I literally stand backstage and do what I know I need to do, my deep breaths, and I like visualize really quickly, and I, you know, remind myself that I've warmed up, I've done everything I needed to do to prepare, and like you said, I've done this before. And you know, and so it is kind of like, wow, you can be nervous and be confident, you can be shy and be confident, and you know, any personality type can have that sense of like attractive confidence that we all want.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And it's important not to, if we change what we need to feel certain about, that can be a great help. You know, if you say, if before I go on stage I try to get certain that everyone is going to agree with me, that's a problem, because I'm basing my certainty on something that I cannot control, and therefore the confidence I have is going to be very flimsy. If I base my confidence on the certainty that I really am going to go out there and show these people that I care, that's going to give me a different level of confidence, because now it's not about making everyone like me. It's about actually demonstrating that my intentions are really good, that I genuinely care about helping people today, and that I'm going to do everything in my power to do that while I'm on stage. In a relationship, our certainty can come, you know, if our certainty has to come from, I'm certain that this person will never hurt me, then we're always going to be looking for reassurance, because we never can be fully confident that someone is never going to hurt us. We hope that we've chosen wisely. We can make sure that the evidence of the relationship suggests that this person has our best, you know, has our interests at heart and isn't going to go and hurt us recklessly. But we never know for sure. And a lot of people never feel safe in a relationship because they're basing all of their confidence on needing this person to guarantee that they'll never leave or never hurt them. And then we're looking every day for reassurance. Please, you know, did you mean what you said yesterday? Are you really going to stay with me? Are you really never going to cheat on me? We can never get enough reassurance, and reassurance always needs to be topped up. Whereas if you base your certainty in a relationship on the idea that, you know what, I've always been okay. I have had relationships that have ended and I've survived and I'm still here. If this person, God forbid, cheats on me or hurts me or leaves me, I will still be okay. In other words, my certainty can come from my ability to handle difficult situations, not on difficult situations not happening. So that's like a nice little hack for confidence, is instead of trying to get confident about something you can never be certain of, just change the focus of where you're looking for certainty, and you can immediately be more confident.
Yes. Okay. I love so much of what you said. And to me, I'm just kind of gleaning from it that self-worth precedes confidence is something I kind of heard in what you said, is that this kind of sense that like, I am okay and I'm a complete person, you know, I guess in terms of dating, with or without you, you know, and you know, I'm full by myself. And, you know, and that is kind of what gives this sense of confidence, not I need you to make me feel full.
Yeah.
Which is
Yes.
really a cool way of thinking. And, you know, I even think about how I prep for stage. Like people ask me all the time for like, how do you deal with stage nerves? Or do you get nervous? Kind of like what you were saying. And the way that I've learned to deal with stage nerves is very much what you just described. It's like I used to step on stage, and whenever I'm not in the best place as a performer, it's when I'm stepping on stage hoping they like me, hoping that they think I'm enough, hoping that they, just feeling like I can't make a mistake or they'll be so sad they bought their ticket,
Yeah.
And it's this sense of like very much built into my ego is what's at stake here. And then I know that if I'm in that place, I'm not stepping into a winning situation. However, if I do step on stage with a sense of like, I get to give a gift today, I get to share with them what I have prepared, what I love. I hope it brings them joy. I'm going to do the best I can. It takes it away from my ego. And now it's about, showing up with what I'm confident in and hoping they accept it. But it's not, my worth isn't contingent upon it.
Exactly right. That's such a powerful way of seeing it, to take it away from I need to look impressive to
Yes,
I'm sharing something with everybody today.
absolutely. And gosh, thanks for therapy. My therapist taught me this like new way of viewing it because I was getting way in my head. And I want to say something that's so cool about your book is I read it, several years ago when I was single and I was hoping, I was like, okay, I'm struggling meeting people. I want to learn how to meet the guy. And I was shocked as I read the book that yes, it all uses examples that tie into dating and relationships. But I was like, this is basically a book about loving yourself and about confidence and about, and anyways, I was like, it's much more than just about like how to win a guy. It's how to build yourself into the kind of person that is confident enough to say, yeah, I deserve this. And that's when it will come to you. So props to you on your book. And I just want to tell everybody in this group today that it's a really great book and it has so many nuggets in it. And I really encourage you to get it. So that's
Thank
my
you so much. That's
honest plug.
very, very kind of you to say that. I and very generous. Where our self-worth meets getting the guy or getting the girl or just attracting anybody,
Mhm.
is in the form of boundaries and standards. If you think about it, that standards and boundaries emanate from inside out. They start with what we define as acceptable behavior, how we want to be treated, what we will and won't put up with.
Mm.
But they meet someone on the outside in the form of us letting someone know when we would like a little more from them in order for us to continue investing in the situation, or when someone has done something that we don't appreciate and being able to articulate that in a, albeit compassionate way, but in a firm way. When someone on the outside is able to hear our standards from us, and we define boundaries with people, we actually become more attractive to them. A lot of
Mhm.
us a lot of us are really afraid that if I show someone boundaries, I'm going to scare them away, or they're going to, it's kind of a deep-seated sense that, oh, I'm going to be seen as high maintenance, I'm going to be seen as too difficult, and I'm not worthy of someone living in line with my boundaries. So we start to let them slip, especially when we like someone. But it's boundaries and standards that makes us attractive in the first place, because now we show someone or the world that we're someone who has self-respect. And of course, self-respect comes, the deeper level of self-respect is self-love. i'm going to
Mhm.
I'm going to respect myself because I'm worth respecting. I'm worthy of that. That's really what the book does, even though it gives lots of practical examples of how you can impact your dating life, is
Mhm.
really about having a different standard for the kind of people that you let into your life and the kind of people you choose to keep in your life.
Absolutely. And I love how you describe that, you know, boundaries and self-respect is a more attractive thing. Because like you said, oftentimes we're like, well, I can't let them know that, or they'll think I'm, high maintenance, like you said. But anything we own, of like even things that we value, like we have different standards for those nice things, like the way you treat, a Lamborghini versus like a really old, Toyota Camry, which is no shame on the Toyota Camry. I love Toyota Camrys. But you know what I mean? It's just there's a different level of boundaries you would hold for that prized thing. And one thing you say over and over again is, I think it's being a woman of high value or a man of high value, like living your life, knowing that your value is infinite and amazing and you're special. And, as Paris Hilton would say, walk as if you have a tiara on your head, just like, I think that's a really important point to remember.
And no one needs to start by trying to find all of these amazing things about themselves to start valuing themselves more. The one of the keys to self-love is actually to recognize how we come to love other really important people in our lives. If you imagine, Lindsey, do you have siblings?
I do.
And are you close?
Yes, very close.
When you think of your love for your siblings, is it anything to do with whether they have a good day or a bad day today?
Yeah, you're right. No, not at all.
It's just, you just love them because they're yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's my brother, that's my sister, those are my, you just love them because they're yours, and because it's like, these are my people. And I think the same way when it comes to ourselves. We don't have to try to conjure up all of the impressive things about ourselves in order to love ourselves. And if you do, then it's actually dangerous, because what if today you don't do any of those things that make you impressive? What if today you get a C in your life grade, and are you going to now finish today and go, I'm worthless today because I wasn't impressive in all the ways that I have to justify loving myself by?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, to say is, I am responsible for me, in the same way that if someone has a child, you're responsible for that child. We are the child we are responsible for, and that child doesn't have to be impressive to get love from us. We have to love ourselves like it's our job, because it is our job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've found for myself that, like, that whole self-love thing, when it's true self-love, rather than focusing on all the things you've done or adding things to the pile, as great as it is to be interesting and passionate and, well-versed and educated, all those things, as wonderful as all those things are, to truly love yourself is to strip all that away and try to figure out, like, what is the self I'm loving? And I think a great moment that we all faced, that was the pandemic. We all had to kind of just say, whoa, all my achievements, all my to-dos, everything was stripped away from almost everyone. And it was this moment for a lot of people to say, wow, I've put all this value in my work or my career or this performing. Okay, now that that's literally been taken away, where does my value lie? And and that is, I think, what gives us true self-worth. If you're okay with yourself when there's nothing that's, there to, like, kind of cover yourself up with and disguise yourself in these different hats we wear. And that to me is true self-love.
That's such a wonderful point. That's such a wonderful.
So speaking of boundaries, I had a thought. I feel like in relationships there's this fine line between, people say you should never change for anyone, but also relationships are about compromise and about being adaptable. Like, that's a huge thing in relationships. So where does that boundary lie between, changing for somebody versus being adaptable and compromising?
I feel like that idea that you should never change for anyone is a recipe for being an asshole. Right? I mean,
yeah.
I feel like it's, it's where the change comes from. Is it that we change for someone out of fear and out of a place of, essentially constantly moving our boundaries and lowering our standards because we think that in order to keep someone, we have to keep letting them get away with more and more and more, And that's a danger. You know, the danger is when we think we have someone awesome that we really want to keep, and because of our low self-esteem, we think in order to keep them, we have to just go out of our way constantly to serve them and to please them. And they want us to come over to their part of town, so we always go over to their part of town, but we ignore the fact that they never make the effort to come to our side of town. It's always on their schedule. It's always when they pick up the phone last minute. You know, these are things that are about the lowering of our standards. They're not about change that comes from a compassionate and generous place. And, you know, sometimes we change. I suppose there's a couple of different types of change. There's the change that we make because we actually, someone alerts us to something about ourselves that we think, you know what, with some outside perspective, I've come to realize that that part of me does need changing, or that I would actually be a more powerful person or a better person if I change that. And there are people that come along in our lives to help show us our blind spots. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about our relationships, is that we find the right relationship and it actually raises our game. We change for the better because of that person. So I would hope that we change. There are then the other changes that we make sometimes in a relationship where we change something that isn't a big deal to us to change. You know, it's not, we know it would make someone happier if we did something. They kind of, for example, you know, maybe when we go away on vacation and we're not together, they like texting and calling and we don't really care. You know, we can happily go a week without needing that constant contact, but that person really, really values it. And so, you know, there's some kind of a compromise where you say, well, I'm going to shoot that person a few texts each day just to let them know that I'm thinking of them, because it's deeply important to them, because it matters to them, and this relationship matters to me, and therefore what matters to them should matter to me. That's not a change that makes us, it's not like we're sacrificing ourselves for that. It's just something we know the other person would like. So I think that those kinds of changes, the ones that make us better and the ones that are just generous, acts of generosity towards somebody else, that's a positive way to change. The negative way to change is if we're either doing it out of fear or a desire to be a people pleaser, or if changing something genuinely means amputating some crucial and important part of our personality or value system.
Oh, love that. You said it perfectly. And it's like in a great relationship, you would hope that you are inspired to make some changes, you know, because we all want someone that's going to bring out our best self. And let's be honest, our best self is sometimes a little bit hidden, and we need people, good people in our lives to help us change. So it's kind of something you would hope you glean from a great relationship, is a little bit of adaptation.
Absolutely. By the way,
so
we have over 3,000 people here. How cool is that?
I know. I thank you again so much, everybody, for joining us today. This is cool. This whole Facebook audio thing is pretty new to me, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, I just like, yeah, it's cool. We've filled an arena, we've filled a virtual arena here. Right?
Welcome, everybody. Like, my performer side has to come out now. I wish that there was a chat feature. I would love to hear like what your guys' questions are, but I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to deal with our conversation that we choose to have. But I am curious, Matthew, how would you help someone, or what would you say to someone who feels insecure about, you know, possibly their attractiveness, or they feel like they're not attractive? Because I feel like that is such a common fear for so many people. And so what would be your best advice to overcoming that kind of an insecurity?
Well, you know, symmetry, facial symmetry isn't distributed evenly in this world. That's true. And neither is, you know, body shape, and you know, the some people struggle more with that. And we do, you know, it would be false to say that there aren't certain types of faces and bodies that make life easier for some people, because they just do. There are some people who have an easier time getting attention because of the way they look, and it would be a lie to say otherwise. What I but I think that it's worth thinking about it in a couple of other ways. Firstly, we do actually have an incredible amount of influence over our attract, and part of that is because, of course, the ways that we can work on our personality, our boundaries, how we come across. Our charisma is something that, you know, we're not just born with a certain level of charisma that can't change. We do actually have ways of improving our charisma. We do actually have ways of being more bold, of speaking up for ourselves more, or flirting better. But also on the outside, we do, you know, we have, you can go to the gym, you can work out, you can improve your body, you can groom yourself and look better that way. You can look after your skin. Like there are a lot of things you can do. Now, is it going to take someone who doesn't look anything like the kinds of people that are held up as the examples of beauty in today's day and age? No, it's not going to completely eradicate the gap, but it can make an extraordinary difference. So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is, being the best looking person in the room only really matters if you're trying to attract everyone in the room, which, by the way, isn't even possible for the best looking person in the room. So if you're coming at it from a place of, well, trying to attract everyone in the room is just an egoic pursuit. That's just my ego that wants to attract more and more and more and more and more people. What is it I actually really want? What is it I'm actually looking for? And if the answer is, oh, I'm looking for a really great connection, I'm looking for someone who really thinks that I am a special, special human being and adores me, and that I can also adore, then you're playing a very different game than the attention game. Mm-hmm. You're actually in the game of, let me find that person who I'm going to build something extraordinarily special with. And that to me is where there's much more happiness anyway. You know, one of the problems for people who get an extraordinary amount of attention is that it actually takes their focus away from something that could be far more nourishing, far more nutritional. It's harder to choose than if you are inundated with options, and it can also be seductive to have lots of options, and it can make it hard to give that up. But that doesn't mean that happiness resides in, you know, constantly flitting from one superficial interaction and romantic situation to another. If you take the premise that for most people, being in a deeply connected and beautiful relationship, you know, of however they define it, is one of the most beautiful things they can experience in life, then you don't need to worry about the egoic part of you that worries, am I attractive enough? That's ego. Am I attractive enough? Is anyone going to think I'm good enough? That's kind of ego. What we have to do instead is seek out that one person that we are, I don't want to say meant for, because I don't really believe in meant for. What I believe is you meet someone who just thinks, oh my God, you are extraordinary. That not one feature on you is extraordinary. You're extraordinary because you have an extraordinary face or an extraordinary body. No, you meet someone who sees the package that you represent from the inside out and thinks, you as a package are far from perfect, as am I, but my God, are you someone I want to spend my life with?
I love that. Okay, that's so cool. And you know, it's so interesting that we all have this idea of, I mean, at the end of the day, what we all want is to be happy. And then we, in our minds and in our, you know, society, make up these ideas that have been then programmed into us of like, okay, well, to get, you know, love and happiness, I have to be X, Y, and Z. And we fill in that gap with like things like beautiful, have this body, I have to be successful, I have to, you know, just all these things. And it's interesting that sometimes when you're chasing such specific things to then get the happiness and love, you get so far down the path of chasing this thing that you realize you are really far from the actual goal of the whole point, which was to be happy and find love. And I mean, I experienced that years ago when I was severely anorexic. And I think, you know, the goal purpose of it was I just wanted to be thin because I wanted to feel safe and loved.
Mm.
And, you know, and I thought that would make me feel safe and loved and happy. And at the end of the day, when I was, you know, eating about, you know, the nutrition of a rabbit and, you know, so incredibly unhealthy, I was absolutely the most miserable I've ever been. And it was quite a wake up call to finally just realize, wow, in my pursuit of being what I thought was beautiful, I've ruined all my relationships and I'm so far from happiness. And so it's just kind of really reprogrammed the way that now, as a healthy person, I think about this. And there's so many different types of people that are beautiful, and different people have different types of what they like as beauty. And I like in your book that you said, you know, sometimes you'll look across the room and you'll see a very attractive person and you get real nervous, you know, to that very attractive person. Well, they've only ticked off like 5% of what could possibly make them appealing to you and a good match for you. So like, why are we so nervous, or why do we put so much stock in that appearance? You know, and anyway, so I just think you said it so beautifully of like, there is so much more that makes up a human and so
Mm.
much more that leads to relationships and happiness besides what we all kind of put so much emphasis on, which is just that tiny like 5 to 10%, which is the looks.
That's exactly right. And to your point about, you know, the feeling you had back then of, you know, I need to stay at a certain weight in order to feel safe, that I can be loved. You know, I when we find the right person, I do not believe that that relationship is going to be brittle. That
Mhm.
that relationship is not going to fall apart simply because our weight fluctuates a bit, or because, you know, we get older, or because that isn't how it works. And if it did, then that isn't the right relationship for you once it falls apart. You know, you can't. The right relationship is not brittle, and
Mm.
we don't have to do a perfect, you know, acrobatic routine on the mat in order for the relationship to work out. If you have to be doing a perfect routine all the time in order for it to work out, there's something wrong with that relationship. That is not the right relationship. And, you know, Anne Lamott, the writer, she talks about truth. She says all truth is paradox. And
Mhm.
what she meant by that is that for every truth, there's a counter truth that seems to contradict it, but feels equally true. So is it true that taking care of yourself in a relationship, taking care of your body, you know, continuing to feed your mind, doing the right things, you know, not constantly putting our insecurity on our partner and expecting them to solve it? So is it true that all of those things are important? Yes. But should the right relationship be able to handle it even when you're not scoring high on those areas? Yes. So you know,
Mhm.
it's kind of it's a paradox to be managed. We should be trying to do our best in a relationship because we love our partner and because we want to be as attractive as we can be, but we also want the partner that is truly accepting of who we are and the journey that we're on.
Yes, and it is funny how I feel like when you're single, all these things seem so important because we think that is what everybody has to have and that's what everybody's looking for. And then
Yeah.
you get in a healthy relationship and like you said, you realize that, you know, if it's a good relationship, it's secure and all of that crap is not nearly as important as we thought it was. And you know, because it's based on so much more than that. And it's like, who cares about a lot of that stupid stuff? And even though you are trying to be the best you can be for that person. So that's really cool that the perfect relate or not the perfect, but the good relationship isn't brittle. I love that. And I think there probably are a lot of people in this, room today. By the way, hello everybody. If you're just joining, thanks for joining us. There's so many of you, and we're very excited to have you all here. But I bet there's a lot of people that are in the boat of saying, but how do I find someone to date? Where do I meet them? How do I initiate these conversations to start things? So I just wanted to kind of toss it to you. Your book talks about tons of stuff, but what are some important tools for the dating tool belt, about how to find people or how to initiate conversation?
In terms of finding people, I like to, this may sound a little bit of a crude way to look at it, but I like to think of it in terms of a portfolio approach that, dating apps, for example, some people like them, some people hate them and don't want to be on them, but that's just one part of your portfolio. You don't need to have a really emotional response to dating apps unless it's the only thing you're relying on. Then it's going to create an emotional response for you, because if it's not going well, or if you feel like you're burning out, if you feel like you're getting locked into incessant text messaging with someone that never goes anywhere, then you're going to start to really hate dating apps and you're going to burn out. But if dating apps aren't the only vehicle that you're using to meet people, then it could just be one part of the portfolio. It's like, yeah, that's one thing that I'm doing that might lead to me meeting someone special. But on top of that, I'm going to do other things. And other things might include here's a nice example. Take the things that you want to do anyway in your life and find the most sociable way to do them. So if you are big into going to the gym or fitness, that's great. But find some sort of group or club or class that means you're actually going to engage with other people while doing that, because that's going to bring a whole new network of people into your life. Don't just go boxing and hit the bag. Go do a boxing class in the morning where there's a whole group of people there that you can interact with. If you're really interested in a certain subject, go actually take a program or take a class in that subject, or go to a lecture in that subject where you're going to actually be part of it with other people. This means you're going to start bringing new networks into your life, which is really important, because most people only ever meet people that they work with. You can have an approach that says, I'm part of my portfolio is going to be reconnecting with friends that, let's say I'm going to upgrade some people who are currently only acquaintances to actual friends. That's one of the best ways to meet new people. Might be that, for example, it might be I have a guy friend who I couldn't even really qualify as a friend yet. He's just someone I've met a couple of times, but he's a good dude. I really like him. I'd like to hang out with him more. So I actually invite him somewhere and start to foster and nurture that friendship. And then I find, he invites me somewhere. And when he invites me somewhere, I'm suddenly interacting with a whole new group of people that he knows that weren't in my network. So, what happens is we get locked into these networks of people that we've had for a long time, and it becomes a bubble. We need to break free of that bubble, not just by meeting people on dating apps, but also by putting ourselves in new networks of people where you don't just meet one new person, but you go to a party or you go to an event that has 50 new people or 100 new people there that you would never normally come into contact with, because you said yes to someone you don't normally say yes to, or because you put yourself in a class instead of a solo session at the gym. So that portfolio approach is really, really valuable. And it means that you don't get frustrated with any one of those methods, because you're diversifying across multiple different things that are going to improve your chances of meeting someone.
Yeah, and it's almost funny to listen to you talk about it, because it sounds so intuitive and it sounds so simple. It's like, of course, but yet how often have we all, I'm speaking to the room here. Myself, how often have I just been like, there's no one, I don't know anybody, there's no one out there for me. And gotten into this rut of feeling very hopeless in dating, as if there isn't a single person in the city of Los Angeles that could be right for me. But it's like, oh, it's just a matter of a numbers game oftentimes. And
Yeah.
being creative and putting yourself out there, instead of going on a dog walk alone, going to the dog park, on a regular
Yep.
basis, or having a weekly game night with friends and inviting them to bring other friends to it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is very simple and it seems intuitive, even though it really isn't. And so it's really cool to just hear you talk about it, because it sounds like this is very doable for anybody to do these things. It doesn't take a scientist.
And the good
And
news is
also,
that
go on.
those things will improve your life even if you don't meet someone. So
Right.
the thing that can frustrate people about a dating app is that it feels like if I don't meet someone, that activity did not improve or enhance my life in any way. But with the other things we're talking about, they absolutely do. They broaden and expand our friendships, our networks, our experiences of life. We do new things. We have all these new moments. So that is a kind of recipe for avoiding dating burnout, because well, all of those things are worth doing anyway. And importantly, they do require a little bit of effort. It is hard to say yes to the event where you don't know many people. It's much easier to have the game night with your friends where you don't have to entertain anybody because you're all so comfortable. I respect that. I'm an introvert, so I hate, my nightmare is a party. I love parties. Don't get me wrong. I can go and have the best time, especially if there's good music. I love it, but I also hate them. I also, if someone invites me to a party, I'm like, oh God, I have to go to a thing and talk to people and, be in that environment and try. Like, I don't want to do any of that. But if I'm in the mode of expanding my life, then I do have to say yes to some of those things that require a little effort to say yes to. I don't have to do it every night of the week. I don't even have to do it 4 times a week, but at least once or twice a week, I should try and involve something, an activity, an event, an invitation that takes a little more effort than the thing that's comfortable.
I love that. And I'm just going to kind of put out a little challenge to our group today that, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, I think it is really important to make goals, like you just said, Matthew, of like, all right, once a week. Okay, once a week, I'm going to take on a challenge to put myself out there and do one thing that I wouldn't normally do, that takes a little bit of effort, and this could be, if you're single, going out somewhere or planning something, or if you're in a relationship, it could be you're going to do something to liven up your relationship, or do something that will, be kind for your partner, just maybe think of what your goal is, not once a week. That would be my goal. But anyway, so just want to put that out there to the group today. And I also like that you said saying yes. I think a lot of times we just get in the habit of, it's very easily to be flaky or to say no, or just like, back out of situations because it takes effort. And so just getting in the habit of saying yes to things and making that a little bit more the default setting than saying no, I think can go a long way in just our, like you said, our overall happiness and satisfaction with life.
And a nice exercise people can do just to give themselves some inspiration for this is just think of someone or multiple people in your life right now that maybe a friend that you have right now that you feel really lucky is in your life, or a contact that you now have that you feel really lucky to have as a contact, and trace back to the original moment where maybe you had to go to an event where you didn't know many people and that's where you met them, and you had to take risk to actually introduce yourself, or you had to, they invited you somewhere and you took the risk to actually take them up on it and say yes when it would have been easier to say no, or you invited them for a coffee or a drink when you weren't friends, knowing that it might be a little awkward, but now you are friends, and my God, you're so grateful to yourself for having done it back then when it wasn't comfortable, because otherwise you wouldn't have that person in your life today. And that's true of certain skills as well. There are hobbies that people in this audience, you know, maybe you dance now and it was because A, you decided to do something you were nervous to do, which was you'd always been peripherally interested in dancing, and you thought, you know what, do I want to take a class? I feel really embarrassed. I feel really bad at it. And then one day you decided to go and do it. And as a result, you now have a hobby that is a passion for you and you love it and you can't imagine life without it. That was a result of a risk you took once upon a time. So the risks that you take today will result in those new people and experiences and passions a year from now that you'll be like, I can't imagine my life without them. That's what you'll create as a result of those uncomfortable things you do this week.
I love that. That's such a cool thing. Because, I mean, nothing builds confidence better than reminding yourself that you've done something similar before. Like, okay, I've done this before. I've put myself in that situation and wow, it turned out okay. I didn't melt. I didn't, combust. So that's a really good idea. And, as far as, okay, so finding opportunities to go out or meet people, but then what about like the confidence it takes, like once you're in that room with people, I think that there are really important skills or tools you can have once you're standing in that situation that can help you then initiate conversation or, meet someone. So do you have any thoughts on, well, I'm sure you do. What thoughts do you have on that?
Well, we tend to, our anxiety reaches a crescendo when we try to project too much forward in the interaction. So if I say to you, I really, really need the time, and neither of us have our phone on us, you would have no problem going to the nearest person and asking the time. That would be easy because you'd have this real intention. You'd say, well, I need the time. There's someone nearby, regardless of whether they're attractive or not. I just need the time. That is a very small interaction that would feel a lot easier to do than if you saw someone attractive across the room and thought, it's my job to go and seduce them. That now will turn you into a bundle of nerves because it's too big, it's too scary, it's too big of a goal. What I say to people is chunk down the social interaction to the smallest possible thing. And do that is when you go into a venue, just get used to saying hello to whoever is close to you. If you happen to be, I don't know, in a restaurant or at a bar, just say hi to the person sitting nearest to you. Hey, how are you? What are you drinking there? That looks good. That just a quick little bouncy interaction, and then bounce off and say it to the next person and say hi to the bartender as well. And say, you want to just have that experience of have these little micro interactions that start to not only warm you up, but start to warm the room up to you. Because then, people get so nervous that they don't do anything. But the really sad part about it is you need to do a lot less than you think you need to do in order to create something. You don't need to go and do something miraculous. You need to give someone a license to talk to you. You need to let someone know you're in the room and that you're open to a conversation. And doing something as small as making eye contact with someone who's next to you and saying, hey, how's it going? Even if I said, Lindsey, you don't need to think of a single thing you're going to say after that. In fact, you don't even have to have a conversation after that. The only mission is to make eye contact for a moment and say, hey, how's it going? As a rhetorical question. That alone, if you did that with 10 people, all 10 of those people will feel like you're more approachable than everyone else in that room. So when they decide that they want to talk to someone, who's the person they're going to feel most comfortable talking to? You. Because you're the one who had the moment of interaction with them when everyone else was overthinking it.
Yes, so good. And, it's funny. I feel like we just like you said, there's a lot of pressure we put on every single interaction. And if you make it just about having an interaction, it kind of takes this mindset away of like either being accepted or rejected, either winning or losing, because it suddenly isn't about that. It's not about yeah, and you can take the rejection mindset out of it, because it's just placing, throwing a comment out there. And this is a skill that's not only great for, like, dating purposes. This is just a good skill for life, being able to network, being able to go, you know, meet your in-laws, like whatever, just it's a good
Hmm.
human skill that will improve the quality of life. And I mean, I love people like that. And it's like anyone can be like that, but don't you just love those people that kind of light up a room when they walk in? And it's not because they're special in any way. It's just, I think they have practiced the ability to start conversations and to be kind. And, and
That
I really think that there is a lot to be said about practicing conversation starting, because the guy I'm dating, he's really good at that. He everywhere he goes, he just will, like, almost like, he'll small talk to the cashier, he'll make
mm,
a comment to someone next to us in a line, and sometimes it doesn't lead anywhere, but sometimes we'll spark up these, like, really great conversations with people. And in dating life, if you're single, just starting these little conversations everywhere will make you more comfortable when you want to have a conversation with maybe someone you're interested in, because then it starts to feel like it's you, it's a part of you, it's not this foreign concept to talk to a stranger. It's going to feel much more natural to the person you're talking to as well.
and the really important distinction you made, Lindsey, is the person who comes in and lights up the room doesn't have to be lighting up the room because they're so incredibly witty, or because they just ooze charisma, or they're doing something dazzling. It's not about going and trying to be the life and soul and being something that's inauthentic to how you are. It's lighting up the room because you appear to have a generous energy. You appear to be the kind of person that is inviting to other people, that makes other
Mm-hmm.
people feel better around them, that makes other people feel welcome or accepted. And those people, they have their own kind of magnetism, because we just feel really, really comfortable around them. And there may be people on this room right now that are listening going, but man, I get so nervous, I get so anxious, I don't know how to do that. One of the cures for social anxiety is to see it, and I mean this, I use this with myself, so I mean it with no disrespect to anyone else. Almost start seeing your social anxiety as a selfish impulse.
Mm.
That when I'm really socially anxious, I'm kind of making it all about me right now. And of course, we don't do that consciously or intentionally. It's one of our triggers. We think of being in a room with other people and we tense up and we go, oh my God, this is horrible. And I feel awkward and I feel like I'm going to get rejected and it's too much. But if we start understanding that, well, firstly, if nothing else, there are other people in the room that feel that, even if they don't show it. There are other people in the room that would love to feel welcomed, that would love to feel good tonight or today, that would love a compliment, that would love to feel more at home in this room. If we stop seeing
Mm-hmm.
separate from us, like everyone else has got this figured out but me, which is just not true, then we can actually say to ourselves, you know what? I'm going to go and make someone else feel good by being warm towards them, or by, it doesn't even have to be by starting a conversation, but by just saying hello or smiling at them. And then it becomes an act of generosity. You
Oh, I love that.
through generosity. Anytime I feel anxious, I'm going to go give someone else what I wish this room would give me right now, because somebody else feels what I feel right now. They're just not showing it.
Oh, I love how you said that. That it's an act of generosity and it becomes about kindness. And it's kind of like what we were talking about in the very beginning, of, like, kind of taking the ego out of the way I perform. Always, I want them to like me. And it's like, oh, no, I'm going to give something to them.
Yes.
And I had a interesting experience. I remember I used to hate award shows when I first started going to them. Because I would get so insecure and I'd get anxious before I had to walk the stinking red carpet, and I'd be standing there just hoping some reporter would want to talk to me, even though Taylor Swift is right there. Like, who would want to talk to me when Katy Perry's walking by, and I would just be constantly in this state of, like, oh, I don't know where I fit into this world. Like, do I belong here? Is my dress okay? And then I had a shift of perspective, and I just realized what a selfish attitude I was walking on into these events with. Of it was all about me, all about feeling like I belonged and I was enough. And I started to look around and realize, you know what? I think most of us feel this way. I think most of us are nervous, and there's a lot of us that probably wonder where we're supposed to stand while we're waiting to talk to the next reporter, or or in the event when you don't know who you're seated next to. And I thought to myself, I need to just start to, like, be kind to other people, and like you said, show them the kind of interactions that I wish someone would give me. And it changed absolutely everything about the experience for me. And this may seem very unrelatable, the silly story, but it's now the attitude that I do take into events and a party or anywhere I go. And it really does help get me out of my very selfish mindset of, like, I wish someone would talk to me and make me feel comfortable, to, like, oh, well, what can what can we do for others?
Well, and I think what you said is incredibly relatable, because everyone experiences that on some level in any room, that I don't feel, I don't get as much attention as this person, or am I worthy of this room? Should I be in this room? Am I at home in this room? I don't feel at home in this room. That's relatable for absolutely any of us. And I think what's worth mentioning is the other thing that can help us is to understand that, as you well know, Lindsey, those people, it doesn't end.
Mm-hmm.
You can be the Taylor Swift, the Katy Perry, the whoever. It does not.
Right.
I've with people on every level, and I can confirm for everybody, it never ends until we decide it ends. If you're at the top of the so-called food chain, and you think you're the person who's the it person right now, and you're the one all the cameras are turning to, even then all it is, oh my god, how can I keep this? And the moment that you're not doing something super impressive and the cameras go away and you're not the it person this month, then it's, oh my god, what can I do to get back there? I'm not relevant anymore. It never ends. And once we realize that it never ends, it sort of frees us up to go, well, then I'm not even going to play that game. Because if I can't even win by getting there, if even that isn't going to fix it, isn't going to change it, then what's the point? I might as well play a different game altogether. And I might as well be at this party now and just enjoy it. Just enjoy the fact that I'm even here, because even if I was that person or that person or that person, this still wouldn't go away. It would just meet me in a different form.
Yeah, so good. So true. Like, what is the point of it all? And it's funny because when you do step out and kind of step away from this whole rat race that in some way, shape, or form all of us get sucked into, we've been in it since we were in junior high, you step out of it and you realize how silly it all is. And that,
Yeah.
again, it's like our road to chasing happiness. And then you're like, wait, but it never leads there. So why am I'm on the wrong road? And, it's parallels. Actually, in reading your book, I remember finding so many parallels between, like, wow, I need to approach my dating life the same way I approached my career. Like, and I think oftentimes with talents or with, anything in life, people are afraid to put themselves out there, afraid of rejection. But for some reason, I was able to figure it out with my career. And I put myself out there over and over and over again and faced rejection after rejection. And it was okay, and I had to be like, oh my gosh, I can transfer that same mindset into putting myself out there and dating. Like, if I smile at someone across the room and make eye contact with them and they don't come over and talk to me, that's not the end of the world. Like, there's, another gentleman will come by, and not like somebody in it. Are they going to remember that experience? No, like, they're not going to remember me. That's fine.
That's exactly right. And of course, you, upon meeting the right person or deciding someone's the right person, all of the previous rejections will completely cease to matter. It won't.
Mm-hmm.
They it nothing could be less important at the point of feeling like you're in the right relationship. No one's, I never once in my life, in all of my career of doing this, heard of a person in a happy relationship who couldn't be happy because they were still mourning the rejections of the last 10 years.
Right.
It never happens, ever. So we do also have to remind ourselves, if we're worried about getting rejected, that once we meet the right person, these rejections absolutely will not matter to us anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I just love the idea of like losing the mindset of that it's about acceptance or rejection. It's just about being a good person and meeting people and putting yourself out there. And, I think that's really, really, really profound. Like I said, so simple, but so profound. Um, and I guess as we close, I think this would be a nice thing to close on. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and she said to me, is it bad that I would describe my relationship as content? Is that a bad thing? And I asked her a little bit more what she meant. She's like, well, I'm not like fireworks and love. I mean, I'm in love with him, but it's not like fireworks anymore. I'm just very content. And she was like, is that a bad thing to you? And I know what my answer was, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because I think that, another girl chimed in. She was like, well, yeah, same. I feel kind of similar. So this is a very common, I feel like, question.
Yeah. I think if content, if she's legitimately, genuinely content, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever think that should be cheapened or undervalued because it's being compared with some wild passion or some, roller coaster ride of early dating. I really believe that in life, in not just in our relationships, but in all areas, growing up, and becoming a happier, more peaceful person comes from, in a lot of areas, realizing that I'm sacrificing the dramatics for something more nourishing. And
Mm-hmm.
that thing may not seem as exciting on the surface, but it actually feels better. I'm not getting these spikes of what feels like a drug fueled, ride. I'm just feeling really peaceful and enjoying my life. I mean, in the Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown episode where he goes to Miami, he's sitting in a diner with Iggy Pop, and they're having a glass of wine together, which is a kind of funny image for these two older guys who have both lived colorful lives and, right around the edges. And here's two of them enjoying a glass of white wine together. And he asks Iggy Pop, what makes you happy today? What thrills you today? And Iggy Pop says, and this is a guy who's been a wild, crazy rock star and done it all. And he says, it's kind of embarrassing and corny, but it's just feeling the love and appreciation of people who love me. Those are the moments that really thrill me today. And it, I do think that in our evolution in life, we come to realize that some of the simpler things are the thrilling things. They're not so obviously thrilling. They leave us with a feeling of nourishment and contentment and peace. And I find myself, at least in life, I'm not prescribing anything for anyone else, but I do find myself more and more in life seeking contentment and peace over the wild thrill ride.
Well, it was so beautiful listening to you describe that. And I couldn't agree more. And, to me, I was like, does content mean safe? You know, that's ideal in my mind, is that relationship that you feel safe in, you know. And it's like any relationships. It's like, yeah, sometimes it is exciting to, like, you know, it's like in junior high when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm hanging out with the cool kids and this is exciting. But wouldn't you rather be with the people that make you feel accepted for who you are and safe? And, you know, and to me, that's the model for relationships still to this
Yeah.
day. And, you know, I just love the way you know, it's, if we all took a step back, I think we'd realize that that is what most of us actually want, even though sometimes it may not seem as exciting when you say the word. You know, and also to remember that relationships go through this ebb and flow, and, you know, they'll have their lows and they'll have their highs, and that is okay to
Yeah.
ride those out. That's what's necessary to have a lasting relationship, is to be able to, like, build up the emotional bank account to ride out the ebb and flows of the
Well
highs
put.
and lows.
Well put.
Well, Matthew, you have been so generous with your time, and I just can't even thank you enough. I loved listening to all the things you said, and I can see that everybody else did, because we've still got a full room. They didn't abandon us. And so I would now just love to hear
That's
from you. Like,
extraordinary.
what's coming up for you?
Well, and I was just going to agree with you. It's extraordinary that we have just as many people as we've had at our peak, which is, I know, a no mean feat in social media these days. So
Right.
I,
Seriously, thank you, everyone.
I would say to everyone here, probably a really great thing that everyone can do right away is I have been running this 30-day confidence challenge that I'm really proud of. Firstly, because it's free and people don't have to buy their way into it. They can just come and experience it. But because over the course of 30 days, you get issued 5 challenges, 5 missions to do that over 15 years of coaching people in their confidence I've designed specifically to target the key areas that if you change those, it has a massive impact on your confidence in very psychologically targeted ways. So
Wait, what? Where do we get this? This sounds amazing.
it's been really, really wonderful, and people have had measurable change in their confidence over 30 days from doing it. If people go to MH is my initials, Matthew Hussey, mhchallenge.com, you can go and sign up for free. It begins with a kickoff event online where I take you through all of the challenges and give you an hour of really hard-hitting practical advice on confidence. And then you go away and you have 30 days to complete the challenge. And it's super interactive and fun, and people have just really been enjoying the ride. So that's at mhchallenge.com.
Okay, and I'm gonna put a link to that on my Facebook page. So if you guys didn't write it down, mhchallenge.com, one more reminder, I'm gonna put it on my Facebook page too, because that sounds really awesome, and I'm totally gonna do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsey. I've absolutely loved this. And for everyone who has patiently been here with us and been invested in this conversation, it really means the world to us. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, so much. And I hope you'll come back for future conversations. I'll be posting more on Facebook about guests probably next week. But I mean, Matthew, you're the only guest I've had, I promise. But yeah, and also be sure to go check out Matthew Hussey's gosh, his Instagram is amazing. It's so uplifting. He does live events. I'm really excited to check out this challenge, and then also just follow Matthew. He's very inspiring, and I'm always uplifted by his content. So thanks again, Matthew, and thank you everyone for coming today.
Appreciate you, friend. Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.